Hello everyone, welcome to Paco3D.art, and we are here to do the third chapter, which is navigation and also selection within Maya. But first, before we do commence, I'm just going to do a little bit of homework on making sure that you go to this video here to do this setting up projects in Maya, and you download and you install the 7-zip, and you also download and install the Patreon file. So this is 7-zip. But also in here, when you go to my Patreon, you download the manipulating objects. Okay, and when it comes to manipulating the objects project file, then you just go File, Set Project, Set, Control O to open the scene, and this is all covered in the previous lessons, just a refresher, so you don't have to go back and forward if you don't want to. And we're gonna be covering, so I'm pressing a million buttons here. We're gonna be covering introduction to Maya. It's not this one. It is navigation and selection. So we're gonna be doing orbit, panning, zooming, what it is the world axis. So that's pretty important. It's a bit of theory. We're going to do the view cube as well. We're going to talk about how you select objects, deselect objects, add objects and remove objects with the selection process, and also how to frame into an object and how to show all objects within the scene. So before we commence, however, we're going to talk a little bit about changing viewports with the spacebar, which is covered previously in the other lesson. And to do that, say that you have got the scene open. If you want to switch cameras, there is essentially two ways. So one way is if you press down spacebar and you tap it, you just tap it once, you go tap, and that will go for the 4 views. And then when you move the cursor to whatever you want to see, so for example here the top view, if you tap here once, then it will show you that. Tap again the spacebar, it'll go out, in, out, in, out. But also when you're here with the tapping, after say that you don't want to tap and you want to just switch, what you want, you can hold down the spacebar, you'll get a hot, this is called a hot box, where you get all the different menus. And now this is where you can click here and it will show left view, top view, back view, front view, yada, yada, yada. So if you want to go top view, you can go like that. Bottom view, oh man, bottom view is going to be that important, right view and front view. Okay. And you might be wondering, why did I lay out the objects in such a weird diagonal way? But also on the side, and this is so whenever you switch, so say if we go left view, you can see all objects very easily laid out. But if you go front view as well, you can see all objects laid out from left to right, so you don't get confused with any objects being in front or the side, anything other, because you might see this in here and be like, oh, this is interesting, why is it done like that? Is Paco crazy? Yes, I'm very crazy, but it's a bit easier for you, so you can see it all different angles. Okay. The next thing I'm gonna do, this part here down below, it's a little bit messy. So what we're gonna do is, I assume everyone's using the general workspace, or you might be using your own, but just to make things a little bit minimized, we're gonna remove all the animation components so we can get a bit more space. So we're just going to go here where it says modeling standard, up here where it says workspace, general modeling standard. And now you're going to remove a little bit of that extra clutter that we don't need. And we can focus now on the navigation and other side of things. Okay, very good. So we got the scene open, and we're going to talk a little bit about what is navigation. So the navigation is essentially you being able to move at the scene. However, It is something that is done arguably whenever you're doing 3D modeling or you're working within Maya. It's going to be anything between 40 to 60% of your time is going to be done through navigating within the scene. So, or anything that is done, I really need to decide where to put my face on the slides. Anything that is done with camera movement is done with Alt, so which is the keyboard modifier. That's the third key. Not sure if it is Option or which key it is for Macintosh, but you press down Alt, and then with the left mouse button, the icon is wrong. The left button of the mouse, that's what you use in order to orbit around the scene, right? So think of yourself like a planet that you move around an object, and that's how you change your viewing angle of an object. So if we go here for a second, you hold down Alt and then left click, and you get this icon here. It looks like two arrows with a ball. And this is essentially a orb, yeah? And it works the opposite way. Like if you move your mouse up, you move down. But if you move your mouse to the right, it moves to the left. So it's like inverted in a way. So it might take a little bit of time to get used to it. And up and down, have a bit of a play. Yeah. Now the next one that we're going to talk about is pan. So pan is when you essentially you can move left to the right like a crab, or you can move up and down like Peter Pan. And it is essentially holding down the middle button. So make sure that whenever it comes to 3D graphics, a middle mouse button is quite important. And if you don't have one, make sure that you buy one because it's quite important. But you hold down Alt and then middle mouse button, and then yeah, if you move your mouse to your left, you move to the right. If you move your mouse to the right, you move to the left. Again, it's inverted. If you move your mouse down, you move up. Yeah, I'm not too sure if there's options to change that all around, but I'm pretty used to it. It's almost like dragging your object. Yeah, and now feel free to play with both. So you go drag, rotate, drag, rotate, drag, rotate, drag, rotate. And this is how you move around the scene, which is quintessential. Okay. Moving to the next one, we got zoomies. Zoom, zoom, zoom. Just pretend that you are a MasterCard and you are zooming around the world, but instead you're doing it with your right click button. And that is when you hold down Alt and then you drag your mouse backwards like this. And that's to go left. To the left it goes out, and then right it goes in. But it also works up and down. So if you move your mouse up, you go out, and then down you go in. That's by holding down Alt and the right click. Okay. So I'm just gonna give, this is now the moment to pause the video, to press K, and just feel free to move around a little bit and get used to it. Because like I said earlier, you're gonna be doing this a lot. And this is another reason why I've moved the objects a fair bit. So you have to do a little bit of getting used to it, to move around. And just do a bit of that for the next minute or two. And then, yeah, we'll go to the next part of the video. Okay, very good. So now that you've had a bit of a play with the navigation, we're going to be talking about the model axis a little bit. So just let's pretend that you have a little man, right? And with this little man, we got, yeah, we got this little man here, okay? And we're gonna be essentially be looking at two things. So we're gonna be looking at this little guy here in the corner. So I would like you to pay attention that you have, let's use this cursor here where, let's say that this is the center of the world. And in this direction here, that is the x-axis. And then we're gonna press, let's change this to green, and this is moving now up. and this is their y-axis, and then anything that goes in the front, then this becomes the z-axis. And it's very important to know in what direction what goes what, and the same is applied if you look at this little cube here on the right, because these are the two things that we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about this, the view cube, but also we're going to be talking about the world axis. And when it comes to the world axis, again, I have to move my face. Yay! So whenever it comes in Maya, so each 3D tool, they have axes swapped up. So for example, in some programs, Z is up and Y is forward and things like that. So it can be quite confusing, but I think all 3D programs are trying to have the axis in the same direction so things don't get mixed up. But usually Y is up and down. Think of, you're going to play basketball and you jump up, and that's the Y to jump. X is on the sides. So if you're moving to the left, to the right, like a crab, that's the x-axis. But then if you're moving back and forward, like this, that is the z-axis. So just it's important to pay attention, and whenever you're doing a 3D model of a character, for example, like I know this is not important, or if say that you're doing the front of the house, or say that you're doing a label and the label of the bottle is in the front, make sure that it is looking towards the Z direction and the sides is on the X, just like this part here, because you don't want to, it's like you want to make sure that people know straight away what's the front part and what the sides, and when there's any placement, then things are looking in the right direction, yeah? And now that we're talking about the world axis, I would like to also introduce the view cube, which is very similar, correlated to what we're talking about with the world axis, right? And it's a great way for someone that is learning the software to understand the direction of things or where things are meant to be. So if you, by the way, if you don't have the world axis on the viewport, or you don't have the view cube, I will show you very quickly how you can bring those up inside of Maya. And this is if you go inside of display, and then you go to heads up display, and you will see a bunch of checkboxes. Each of these checkboxes, if you've got them ticked on and on, it means they've got things on showing in the viewport. And the two that you want to have on is view axis and view cube, which is just here. Okay, and just click on those. And if now I go back there very quickly to turn them on and off, you can see, actually, you can just go, by the way, you can tear off menus very easily like that as well. And then you can just go boom, boom, boom. You see, that shows on and off. And the view cube, okay? Just in case you don't have them on. And what's great about the view cube is if you click any of these little icons in here, like you can use this as well to drag it if you hold down your left button. So this is another way that you can do orbit if you don't want to use the Alt key for some reason. But if you click on any of these buttons, it will teleport to say that view, and then it will come up these arrows here as well. We can tap on those, and then it will migrate to those views as well, which is very easily. And this is a great way to use this if for some reason you only are using a pen but you don't have an Alt and you're using a tablet. So then it's like, okay, so this is a great way to be able to move around and select around. But you can also select the corners like that. However, if you ever want to move to orthographic view, you have to press on this button here and then click orthographic view, and then now that will give you the orthographic views of those things. You can also rotate them like that as well. Okay, if you press this button here, it will reset and it will go back to normality. Feel free to pause the video now with K of kangaroo, and then we'll be back to talk a little bit about selection. Okay, very good. I hope you had a bit of a play with moving around and playing with the view cube. Now we're going to be talking about selection. So just whenever it comes to selecting objects, it's essentially just using the left click. So you left click, but you have to make sure that inside of the, sorry, I'm getting confused with everything. You have to press the button Q, which is a Queensland, and there is a logic behind why you press that key. But you have to be essentially in the selection tool in order to select the items. So let's have a bit of a play on how this works. By the way, the reason why you are not able to select the table, or you're not able to select this box, is because they are locked at the moment, and this is done, so it's a bit easier for you to learn the software for the time being. But when it comes to selection, you just left click once on the button, so you go click like this, selection, selection, and that's how you select that one item. And what happens is you get this green highlight where it shows, okay, so that's what's being selected at the moment. However, if you want to add a selection, you can hold down the shift key, and that's how you can add a selection. So say that you want to select this yellow ball here and the blue and this yellow disc. This is how you can add selection very easily. But the way that shift works, it works as you are either, it's both adding and removing at the same time, because if I click that again, it's adding, removing, adding, removing, adding, removing. So it doesn't work as a just add or just remove. It works like, okay, cool. So if you want to add everything, now you will see it's not going to add everything, it's going to invert it, right? So it can be a bit confusing. So if you ever want to just add objects, you have to do shift and control. And now if I draw the box, it will not add all the objects, like it will not invert them. Instead, it will add them, which is perhaps something that you prefer to do. So if you just want to add, now you see how it's not inverting, but like this it's inverting with just shift. And then you can drag a box like this, and we'll select them all. Select, select, select. But if for whatever reason, say that you have all of this selected, and now you want to remove, you only hold down Control. And so if I draw a box like this, that's to remove, remove, remove. Okay. So say that I've got everything selected here, and I want to just remove the discs. I hold down Control, draw a little box, and it will remove that. Okay, like this, very easily. So have a bit of a play with that. Yeah. And we're gonna go next with how to do focus and how to show everything. Very good. So after that, we've done a little bit of navigation, being able to move around. Sometimes you might get lost and you're not sure where things are, and you're like, oh God, where is that item, or where is it? And sometimes it's very easy to, maybe you select an item here, and you're like, oh my God, where's that cylinder? Oh my God, how do I get there? So we do have this button on the keyboard called F for Frank. And then if you press F, then what it does, it will teleport to that object to say that you select that hat, or well, that's not selectable. So you select this one here, this disk, and you press F, boom, it will get you to the objects, which is pretty useful, especially if you don't want to, like, say, select the object and then you go like this and like that and like that. That's, you've already wasted 5 seconds of your life. So you select one object like here, press F, it will get you there quite easily. It also works with multiple objects. So if I draw this and I'm like here somewhere, I'm like, where am I? If you press F, it will take you there. And what is really neat, whenever you press F, it will always orbit around that selection. So if I say, for example, select this object here, I press F, it will take me to that object, and then whenever I'm orbiting around that object, it will orbit around that object, which is really, really nice. And so it can also work with multiple objects. So you select them, press F, and there you go. All right, bit of a play with that. Now, when it comes to say that you want to see the whole scene, and you're not sure, so say that you're very far away, you're not looking in the right direction. This is very common when you're learning. Sometimes you get lost, you don't know where things are. If you press A, it will take you to see the whole thing. So if you press A, it will take you to see the entire scene on what there is. It's like view all, and that's what it stands for A, view all or view everything. And that's very handy. So, a bit of a summary. We are concluding with this video. So we have got changing viewports, moving around with navigation in Maya. We also have selecting an unselected object, adding objects and removing objects, framing to an object, view axis, what is X, Y, Z, but also look with the view cube. And when it comes to the next lesson, we're gonna be doing, we're gonna have different ways on how to do selection, because Q is not the only one, but also how to use the hand with the keyboard, and also how to, do different things with movement, rotation, and that's going to be a bit more fun because we're going to be moving objects into place and we're going to be arranging objects around the scene. And I've got a lot of exercises for you to do that. Just remember, guys, if you like this video, to subscribe, because the more subscriptions that I do get, then the more people can enjoy this. Also, feel free to put any comments. I will reply to most comments as long as there's not a million and I'm like, yeah, there's so many comments. Like, I will reply to all of them if they're worthy of replying. If you just say thanks mate, that was awesome, then of course I'm not. And also if there is a friend of yours that you think they could use with learning some Maya, you're like, hey man, this guy teaches Maya, share the videos around. And thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.